Charles sat by the bed with kind, doting eyes. "Oh, good, you're up. It's time for your next dose, but I didn't want to disturb your sleep. Take these pills and rest." Amelia's head was cloudy, and her vision was blurry. "How did I end up here?" Her voice was hoarse and weak from a high fever. Everything felt like a dream as she struggled to stay awake. Charles froze for a moment, realizing how sketchy the situation might seem to her. He had carried her to his car, driven her here, and laid her in his bed, all a few days after he'd confessed his feelings. "You don't remember? I carried you to my car since you were too weak to walk. You slept the whole ride here," he explained carefully. "I don't know where you live, so I nudged you awake to ask, but you just kept mumbling that you can't go home with the virus." Amelia shook her head. "Ah, yes, that sounds familiar now," she murmured, piecing it together. "Then you fell asleep again, and I didn't know where to take you, so we just came here to my place, for now," he admitted. Her heart sank as the reality hit her. There was nowhere else she could go. She couldn't return to the villa or stay with Faith until her condition was confirmed. Amelia furrowed her brow in worry. "Charles, I might have the virus. I don't want to infect you. I'll go stay at a hotel," she said, lifting the blanket to get out of the bed. The moment her feet touched the ground, her knees buckled, and she collapsed. Her body too sick to hold her up. Charles caught her immediately, his heart aching as he lifted her back into bed. "You're in no condition to take care of yourself. Don't go anywhere. Stay here for now," he said firmly. Amelia wanted to refuse. Her instincts warned her about the trouble this could cause. Charles was engaged to Sophie, who had proven herself to be very jealous and insecure when it came to Amelia being around him. Keeping her distance felt like the safest option. "I don't want to trouble you," she croaked. "If I were going to catch your illness, the damage is already done. If you leave now and go to a hotel, you won't just be unable to take care of yourself, you'll be exposing yourself to more people. I know you don't want that," he argued lightly. Charles handed her the medicine. "What you need now is rest. Stay here. If you feel better tomorrow and want to leave, you can go wherever you want. I won't stop you." Amelia hesitated, her eyes darting between Charles and the medicine in his hand. After a moment, she gave in and took the medicine silently. The effect was immediate. The medicine was strong, and within moments, she felt her body relaxing. Her eyelids grew heavy, and soon she was asleep again, this time deeper and more peacefully. In the parking garage at the Spanish consulate, Javier leaned back in the seat of his car, the weight of the day still lingering. Beside him, Victor shuffled through his notes. "Should we head to the villa now?" Victor asked, breaking the silence. Javier thought for a moment, then ordered, "Tell the driver we're going to Council of Foreign Affairs." A subtle grin was on his face. If Amelia was going to cook him a whole dinner tonight, the least he could do was surprise her with a ride home. Javier turned to Victor again. "And you can excuse the convoy. No need for security detail to follow." Considering there were no meetings scheduled today at the Council of Foreign Affairs, Victor knew exactly the reason for his boss's detour. Without commenting, he informed the driver of the next destination. Once they reached the council building, the car idled right outside its entrance, and Javier remained in the back seat. He checked his watch. Amelia's shift wasn't quite over yet. He smiled, imagining the surprised look that'll light up her face when she finds him there, waiting to take her home. But, as time passed, his anticipation turned to puzzlement. Employees filtered out of the building, yet there was no sign of Amelia. Victor noticed the growing impatience in Javier's mood and quietly exited the car to investigate. A few minutes later, Victor returned and leaned down to the window. "Sir, Miss Rivera isn't inside. Her boss says she took the day off and didn't come to work today. Javier frowned. Amelia wasn't the type to skip work without reason. He replayed their morning call in his mind, but she hadn't mentioned missing work or anything out of the ordinary. Victor asked, "Shall we head back to the villa, sir?" "Yes," Javier said tersely, his voice clipped. The one time he goes out of his way to pick her up from work, she isn't there? Somehow, Amelia had a knack for vexing him. Javier's jaw tightened. As he stared at his phone, his thumb hovering over the screen. After a long moment, he decided to dial her number. Amelia slept peacefully in Charles's bed, her breathing steady as the medication coursed through her system. Charles stood by the bedside, carefully tucking the blanket around her. He lingered for a moment, reluctant to leave, his gaze softening as he watched her. Suddenly, the stillness was shattered. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, the bright screen illuminating the dark room. Charles quickly grabbed it, worried that the noise might awaken her. But when his eyes fell on the words displayed on the screen, his expression froze. Future husband. The words pierced his chest like a dagger. His mind raced. Who could that be? Was it Thomas? Or... Before he could stop himself, his fingers swiped across the screen, answering the call. But the phone immediately went dark, and the battery completely drained. Charles stared blankly at the dark screen before placing the phone back on the nightstand. The words, future husband, now burned in his mind. On the other end of the line, Javier sat in the back seat of his car, frustration mounting.
"Sorry, the number you dialed is currently unavailable. Please try again later."
The cold mechanical voice rang in his ear, fueling his irritation. He hung up and immediately dialed again. Javier's jaw clenched and his grip on the phone tightened. Why the hell is her phone off? Between the mysterious calling out of work and Amelia being unreachable, Javier wasn't sure whether to be worried or mad. When Javier arrived at the villa, he went straight inside and his sharp eyes scanned the room, searching for any sign of Amelia but found nothing. "Where is Amelia?" Javier asked the butler, his tone casual, though his brows were slightly furrowed. "Miss Rivera is not home," Mr. Grant replied respectfully. Did we not make explicit plans for tonight? Was she pulling a disappearing act on this dinner too? Javier's unease began to rise. He was kidding when he told her not to stand him up again. Yet he was starting to get a serious sense of déjà vu. His thoughts were interrupted when Mr. Grant added, "Your Highness, this morning Miss Rivera expressed that she wouldn't be returning for a few days." Confusion marred Javier's face. "Did she say why?" Mr. Grant shook his head. "She left in a hurry, but said she would discuss it with you directly. She was wearing a mask when she departed and didn't seem well. Around noon, she called to instruct me to disinfect the house, which I've since had the cleaning staff do." Javier's mind raced. A mask? Sudden disappearance? Disinfection? Then he thought back to the call earlier that day. He'd sensed something was off, but he didn't press her on it. Now the pieces were falling into place, and the realization dawned on him. "Mr. Grant, have the car brought back immediately." Javier exited the house to find Victor by the car. "Has something happened?" Victor asked cautiously upon seeing his boss's tense look. "Amelia is missing. She's sick. We need to find her immediately." Victor nodded, his phone already in hand. "I'm on it, sir." His boss's connections with the National Intelligence Network were only used for emergencies, and it was clear Javier considered this an emergency. If they wanted to track down Amelia's whereabouts quickly, their spy network was their best bet. Later that evening, Amelia woke in discomfort, drenched in sweat due to a rising fever. Her eyes adjusted to the dim light, and she weakly padded into the living room to find Charles reading on the couch. Hey, feeling any better? He asked gently, gesturing for her to sit. Let me check your temperature. Her symptoms had grown worse since this afternoon, but after her nap, she still didn't feel it was appropriate for her to spend the night, especially when Charles didn't have a guest bed. There's no need, she said, her voice hoarse. Thank you for looking after me so sweetly, Charles, but I'd still like to check into a hotel before it gets too late. She looked so pale and listless. Charles wanted to urge her to stay, but he'd promised to respect her decision. I'll grab my car keys and take you. Amelia gathered her things and walked to the door. But just as her hand touched the doorknob, the door swung open from the outside. And there stood Sophie, stunned and red with fury over the sight of Amelia standing in her fiancé's apartment. To find out what happens next, download the Pocket FM app in the next minute to get free access to all episodes of The Royal Accident for free.